Ladies and gentlemen, there's another update on the unemployment figures. Now, about 2 days ago, they said it was at 38.6 million. No, now they're saying it is past 40 million. So they estimate that it was 4.4 million new unemployment claims. So I'm going to go ahead and let you listen to this video. See if I can get this to play. But I'm not surprised, and many of you have predicted that it was going to hit 40 million, and we're not even out of May, and it has already reached those figures. Okay, let's see here. All right, there's a commercial on. So this is how many people have been forced out of work so far. And many said it's going to go beyond this number. And I believe it.
2.4 million Americans filed jobless claims in the last week as the pandemic continues to force millions of people out of work. So Frances Stacey is going to be joining us now to talk a little bit more about what these numbers mean, because, Frances, these numbers do not include individuals who are self-employed who are applying for federal assistance through another program, not an unemployment deal. What do you think of the numbers? Tell me, what are we to make of them?
Well, the nice thing is that they have been declining 7 weeks in a row, so that's kind of a good sign. So now we just have to watch the continuing claims, because if we have the new unemployment claims have slowed, which is very good for market behavior, and obviously the market is up like gangbusters, but now it's how many claims are continued, because that's going to start to indicate the permanent job loss versus the temporary job loss. So that's what we need to watch going forward.
All right, so the number of weekly jobless claims has been decreasing, as you pointed out, Frances. That's been happening week by week. The question that are on a lot of Americans' minds, and economists, and frankly, the White House, is this a trend that will continue?
I think it will continue if there isn't a second wave of coronavirus and a second wave of unemployment, which I think that we still have a decent amount of risk. We see states opening up and we see that cases are dropping, and obviously the summer months are warming and things like that. But I think that the CDC and Fauci has certainly been clear that there is significant risk for a second wave. And so I just think that pretty much everyone's on hold until we get, again, more data, because we expect this economy to turn on like a light switch. And it's not going to turn on like a light switch. And now we have the political infighting trying to open things up faster, trying to slow things down. And the truth is that nobody knows if we just, open the economy tomorrow, what percentage of small businesses are going to be able to open. For instance, we had a statistic earlier in the month of 55% of small businesses probably could not withstand 3 months of closure. And then going over the census data, many small businesses said that they expect to not really be back up and running for another 6 months. So then you say, okay, well, you start to sort of plug in these numbers and say, okay, what percentage is going to then falter if it's really 6 months, and what percentage will it take 6 months? And we don't have actual numbers, but it's pretty safe to say that 10 to 12% of small businesses are never going to reopen. And then you try to project that into the employment figures and just think to yourself, how many of these jobs are permanent? And then on top of that, you take the possibility of a second wave. And the truth is we just don't know, but these are the things that we're definitely watching. And I think that markets are satisfied with the fact that unemployment claims continue to drop, but markets will be very sensitive to any kind of rumblings of a second wave for certain.
Yeah, we've done a lot of reporting about how, all 50 states are reopening in some capacity now. But we're not sort of taking into account, that there are a lot of restrictions. And I keep thinking to myself, if a hairdressing salon opens up, but, they're only allowed to take, one client an hour or whatever it is, and then they have to wipe everything down. I mean, is that a sustainable business. You know, a lot of these businesses, you make money based on volume. So it's difficult to get sort of an accurate picture of what COVID-19 has actually done to the economy. But the Census Bureau is trying to do that. They're releasing a new weekly report aimed at capturing the impact. What do we know about that?
Well, the thing is they're trying to find out who is really suffering under this scenario and how many businesses are definitely, going to continue to suffer. So it's another point of prediction, and it is really sad to say that, people think that they're not getting enough food, or people think that they can't get the food that they would like to get. I mean, that's really unfortunate. I know the Trump administration has come out with, programs to get people food, and that will be another thing that either, is a ubiquitous success or a ubiquitous failure. And obviously we have an election coming up. As far as, I think the biggest concern for me is the small businesses, and just to say that, the majority of them did respond, said that they just wouldn't be able to get up and running for another 6 months, and that is definitely prolonged. And the stimulus was trying to make it so that they could actually get up and running a lot sooner. As far as going forward, again, it won't turn on like a light switch. I mean, your comments are very valid. Just that, what businesses are going to make the effort to do all of the extra protocols, and of those businesses that make the effort to do all of the extra protocols, rather than just shut their doors and accept unemployment ad infinitum, or as long as it's available. Of course, that's a political issue. But, and then what percentage of their business comes back to life? And the thing that's really interesting from an economist point of view is GDP growth, or gross domestic product, tends to come back before the employment numbers go down. And again, we just don't have enough data, but I think these surveys are very important to try and get as much data as quickly as possible.
Frances, as you know, the Treasury Secretary, Steve Mnuchin, spoke before a Senate committee earlier this week. He predicted that economic conditions could improve as soon as the third or fourth quarter. We've heard the president say that, but beyond, and look, everybody in this country wants the economy to improve. It's not a red state or a blue state or a Democrat or Republican thing. We all rise together. Everybody gets that. The question I have for you as an economist, as an analyst, is in Mr. Mnuchin's testimony, or in the words of the president or members of Congress on both sides, have you seen anything that the federal government is doing to stimulate that recovery in the third and fourth quarter or in next year? Because just saying to governors to reopen the state and telling people to reopen their businesses, as you point out, without a sustainable business model is not enough to get this economy back to where it was before this pandemic hit. So have you seen any specific information or specific policy proposals that the federal government is putting into place to stimulate this recovery?
Well, they still haven't deployed the $500 billion that they were given through the CARES Act to backstop companies and things like that. So they have to deploy the rest of that. I imagine that they're going to do so. To the extent that this becomes political, you're right. I mean, you just can't say just open up the economy. And now Trump is trying to incentivize people to open up the economy by trying to say that, hey, we're not going to continue necessarily with the $600 a week. There's been some talk that that's going to expire after July 31st. And they're not going to extend these unemployment benefits. And then you have the massive, thing that went through the House of, another $3 trillion in stimulus. And I think that the problem is that the more political either side makes this, the less likely it is to go through. So my recommendation to Republicans and Democrats is take your ideal political ideology, canceling the $600 a week on July, and split the difference. If Trump wants it to cancel in July and the Democrats want it until December, split the difference so that we can get this legislation. Because what I'm seeing is the very early signs of political gridlock. And I think that more than anything is going to delay getting the stimulus, even that's already approved, because people are going to make that political, and the stimulus, any further stimulus out. And Jerome Powell was very clear that we are going to need more stimulus, and he doesn't expect this to be a V-shaped recovery for all the reasons that you've cited, which is salons, that open back up, or restaurants that open back up, cannot do the volume of business that they could pre-COVID. And then, of course, we return back to the market scene. And, you have earnings multiples that are definitely pre-COVID at this point, and that sort of doesn't look entirely sustainable. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what happens next week when the floor of the exchange opens partially, to see if the volatility increases or if we get some more realistic projections between the discrepancy between, of course, Wall Street and Main Street.
As always, Frances, great analysis. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your analytical skills. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Okay. First of all, take everything these folks say with a grain of sand. They're going to always try to rosy everything up when there is nothing rosy to look at. The bottom line is you got over 40 million people that have no jobs in your country. There is no way to make this look good. But you can see these analysts still make attempts to do, oh, well, it is less, it's going down. And I mean, come on, that doesn't make any difference to the 40 million that are collecting. They've always got this fairy tale going on. But y'all, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.